Hello, and welcome to my show, The Thriving Woman. I am your host, Carmel Austin.
Monday, another week, I can't believe I'm counting down the minutes till it's Tuesday. Another day back on.
I will be sharing keys to help you form healthy hearts and boundaries. I'll see you in the show. Hello, this is Carmel Austin here, and I am just so thrilled that we are at this stage with my new book, Courageous Voices Unlocked. This is not just another podcast show. The Thriving Woman actually has been going for 2 years now, and that was birthed out of my first book, Just Say No. And I have grown personally in my business, in my life, in my dreams, in the things that God has given me through this time. Courageous Voices Unlocked is the sequel to The Artist Haven, and it is part of a series called Journey to Wholeness. And I just feel incredibly blessed that today I have most of my authors on, and they're going to be sharing a little bit about their story in our book, Courageous Voices Unlocked. Our theme around that is moving from brokenness to wholeness and freedom, but wholeness as well. So a little bit about myself. I am Carmel Austin. I have a business called Carmel's Garden. I traveled to Israel in 2010. And I brought back beautiful prayer shawls and banners and jewelry, and I started to sell them to support orphans and widows. And before that, I ran a Christian bookstore, and I used to love. As a little girl, I would get on the bus, the library bus that came to our little school just here in Sydney, and all the books and the illustrations and the color and the words. And for those who are watching my podcast show, The Thriving Woman, I have blue and grey glasses. So I've grown up with a dyslexia and what is called Erlen syndrome, but I didn't understand what Erlen syndrome was till I was well into my 40s. And then I started wearing my glasses. So I have struggled a lot in my life with spelling, writing, expressing myself. So always got into trouble for talking too much. But how someone with Erlen syndrome processes is that when they speak, they actually their brain is able to process what is happening. So that is something that I'm working on, and I'm asking God to help me where I can not just speak out how I feel, because I always have gotten into trouble. Even my husband says to me, "You didn't need to say that. Why did you say that?" And I'm asking God to help me with that, because we can overcome things through his love and his strength. So today, and that's one of the things I talk about in my story as well. And, with the book too, I am, because it's part of the series, and I share about Latrina, who is our beautiful author who shared her story in The Artist Haven. And she is a infertility coach. And Latrina and I share something very special because we have many children growing up in heaven. And I have shared a little bit about that in each one of my books. But really, folks, why I do co-author books is that I want to see other people's stories shine. I'm just so blessed with this platform that God has given me. And I've always believed, I think it's that nurturing mother in me that I want to see other people's stories shine. I want to see their wholeness, their love, everything that is good for them to come to pass. So today I'm going to invite Amanda to come and share a little bit about her story, share with my audience, Amanda, where you're from and how we have connected a little bit. And yeah, welcome, Amanda.
Hi, how are you? Well, Carmel and I met each other a little while back and have stayed friends ever since. I ended up, after meeting her, having her come on my podcast. I've just recently recorded with you last week, our recording, and then now I'm getting to be on with all of the other collaborative authors, which is wonderful. I absolutely love sharing stories as well, because I think when we share our stories, we carry the story of God. And what better way to go into all the world right now than to do podcasts and write books and things like that. I love collaboration as well. That is my favorite thing to do. So I love being in books with other authors. I think there's something about the camaraderie. There's something about linking arms, about cheering one another on. And it shows the world that we really, truly are family and we're a little bit different. And it gets people's attention. It really does, in a very quiet and strong way. I've had a lot of people contact me and say, hey, I don't understand why you're doing this and that for that person. Why? Well, because they're running their race and they're doing an excellent job, and I want to cheer them on. So I see that in you, and I think that's why we've stayed friends. So I'm an author, speaker, and a podcast host, and I'm always telling stories.
So thank you, Amanda. And Amanda, whereabouts in the USA are you from?
I am in Pennsylvania, which is closest to the city of Philadelphia.
Wonderful. And what's like you said, Amanda, all of us are sitting in our homes. We have the privilege of connecting together. And it's
Mhm.
so true that, God, every time I open up Facebook, there's a new book. There's a new someone asking, can you support my new book or come into my co-author book? And what I love personally about the books that I have produced, and because this is my second full book, is that ours are very unique as well, because we have linked chapters where
Mhm.
one author is introducing the next author and the whole book links together. So, folks, when you do buy our book, because we invite you to come and buy our ebook and support my authors to go, because we're looking at going for an international bestseller. And all the money that is raised from that goes to a mission that my cousin supports in East Timor. So I've sent a donation off to them this year from last year's book. And it's just been an absolute privilege. I always send a donation each year to the beautiful nuns and all the families. It's a very poor country, which is just on the top of Australia. And I have the privilege of being part of that. And there will be an article, maybe not this first magazine, but the one after that, we'll be sharing an article on that. So if you're wanting to come along and support that, we would love you to do that as well. And so I'm going to invite Nick now to come on, Nick Jones. Nick and I met at awards dinners in Sydney. I travel up on the train or in the car, and Nick is the MC, and her and I have just connected. There's so many levels of things that we are very similar on, and I love Nick's passion and her authenticity. So welcome, Nick, today to my show.
Thank you. Yes, so I am Nick, and I am in the Adelaide Hills. We're trying to come into spring at the moment, but it's still jumper weather. But um, yeah, I'm formerly from Queensland, but living in the Adelaide Hills and just loving all the different things that God puts in front of me, loving being able to not only do what He's called me to do and walk in my own path, but also help back other people's visions as well and other people's passions. And I think it's just so beautiful that we can all run side by side, but still in our own lanes, and hold each other up and encourage each other. And yeah, I think that's the beauty of the kingdom, and that's the beauty of projects like this, where we've all got our little space and little place in the world, but projects like this are really important, I think, for us to, link arms and share our stories, and just with a real expectancy that God is going to initiate some change out of this, and that women will just feel heard and seen and loved, and that they would just be really championed and inspired to walk forward and continue to be courageous.
Thank you, Nick. And that is so true, isn't it? Courageous Voices Unlocked is something that, we are sharing really heartfelt stories, each one of us, in our chapters. And we're sharing truths about how we have overcome, how God has been there with us. And really, I want to really highlight on what Nick is talking about, because as women, we are skilled, we are blessed. God gives us multiple things to do, and we're able to just, balance that out. But it is so true that as we come together in these projects like Courageous Voices Unlocked, and of course, I'm looking at with my magazine that's coming out this year as well. That was a vision God had given me a few years ago. And then last year I was talking about it, where I want to highlight my authors from the Artist Haven and Courageous Voices. And then I've had some people who have joined me as well with the podcast show this year. So life can be incredibly busy, but as we come together as sisters in Christ, as we come together, united, knowing that God is on our side and that we are encouraging each other on that journey. So I'm going to invite Therese to come and share with us a little bit about her story. And welcome, Therese, to my show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As Carmel has already talked about, we were on Superwoman together on a previous book. And this is my second one. So I really just wanted to kind of focus this particular book on some of the things that I hadn't talked about in Superwoman, where I didn't go into a whole lot of detail. But this one, I kind of went in more detail with this book, just to kind of give people an idea of what it's like to be a minority, and to kind of see it through my eyes, and how people view you in the world. Because I think a lot of times people just assume things, but they don't, until you've walked in the person's shoes, it's kind of hard to try and visualize what that's like. So I wanted to really showcase that, as well as some other things that come up in life, that we all get faced with, things that we weren't expecting, and how God uses those trials to kind of refine us and make us better. And so that was my focus in this book, was just really to kind of showcase that the trials are not for anything. They're not for void. They are something that we can use to refine ourselves, to make us better, and encourage other people who may have walked down the same road. We're there for them as well. So
thank you, Therese. And look, let me tell you, folks, Therese's story is heartfelt. It is real. She has overcome so many things. She has walked from brokenness to freedom. Her story and her heart and her life portrays a woman who trusts God as her husband, as her friend, as her carer. And I just am so blessed, that when I look at the whole book and how each story blends into something about me, but each other as well, and how God has illustrated this book the same as the Artist Haven. He brings the people to me, he brings the stories to me, and he speaks to the heart of the women. And Courageous Voices Unlocked, originally, I came up with the theme from brokenness to freedom, and then God really challenged me and asked me to call the book that. And that's a big thing. Each story is, you've really got to be courageous, just as women, to speak up in life. And not just that, to be sharing really personal testimonies of where we've come from, where we're going, where we are now, and how we are trusting God is really what Courageous Voices Unlocked is. And it's just such a thrill for me to be at the helm of that, to have read everyone's stories, to have been with Stephanie, our editor, who will be hopefully joining us a little bit later in the show today. And her and I have gone through the stories and we've talked through them, and we've I know, we've discussed how about this part, let's get them to share a little bit more about that. And I have learnt so much becoming a writing coach, a mentor in that area of my life, and I have grown so much in that, and I feel incredibly blessed to be on this journey today. So we seem to be really moving through really quickly. I'm going to invite Deanne now to come and share a little bit about her journey and how we have connected, and her story in our book, Courageous Voices Unlocked. Welcome, Deanne.
Thank you. Yeah, so Carmel and I met several years back. We both were in a similar, we were both in the same what would you call it, coaching program. That is, and that's where we first met. But then we were in the Dear Superwoman book together, and that was my first taste of writing as an author. I've always been a songwriter. I spent my life on stage as a singer, and it was my first taste. But then of course there was the Artist Haven, and that was my real diving in, going in a little bit deeper, getting into the heart of the artist in me. And I just really enjoyed that journey. And so I really wanted to be a part of this one. And so this one is, just all about that courage. I think that for me, and really, really for just everybody, that God instills in us young who it is that we are to be. For me, I knew that very young. I was artistic. I was a singer, and then the world stepped in, and then things tried to take me away from that, and things got all jumble, and that and it's just getting back to the basics, getting back to who God called you to be. So my journey in the book starts from just as a child, some of the things that he put in me, and how I brought them to fruition, as an adult, and just just continuing on, and then it further goes on into areas of where women are suppressed, and I've always been a little bit of a loner. I grew up with two older brothers, and I never was a real woman camaraderie, just tight friends with women, just because I was just more of a loner. But later in life, through things that I've gone through, that they're my champions now, and I've started the Divine Anointed Woman Academy, where I try to teach women to walk within the 9 gifts of the Holy Spirit, because it's by awakening Him within you that you will be able to figure out what it is. Like, I don't need to tell you what you need to do. He does. And once you listen, it's just amazing how God does carry you through, through all things. Like even today, on a sad note, I had a 14-year-old kitty cat die yesterday in my arms, and I buried her today. But here I am on the podcast, and I can laugh and I can smile, and I'll cry. But that's just peace. God gives you peace that surpasses all understanding. And it's just amazing to be on a journey with a bunch of people that love the Lord as I do, worship the Lord as I do, and want to encourage people to have a great path as we do.
Thank you, Deanne. And that is so true, isn't it, Deanne? It's about one purpose, one heart. And I know, folks, if you haven't listened to any of my podcast shows before, I'm a wholeness coach. I became a wholeness coach when I was part of Kingdom Builders Academy. And, but for 30 years before that, I took women into my home and ministered to them, or went to their home and cared for them and their children. So, I think, it's just a lifetime journey that here we are, some of us in our 50s, 60s, 40s, coming together and and our 70s, seeing our dreams come to pass. And I see that all the things that have gone before me, all the hard stuff, all the good stuff, and then all the skills that I've learnt, that now, you know, bringing books together in my podcast show, it's a privilege. And I'm so grateful to God for that. And all my beautiful authors who have worked with me before, or they're joining me now. So as we continue on, I would like to invite Shona Robin to come on and share a little bit about her story. Shona Robin and I met more than 30 years ago in my local church, which I am still part of. And I have been working with Shona Robin before we even, you know, for months. And I have seen so much growth in her life. And we got to a stage where we felt that, you know, we had some Zoom meetings together. We worked on her story together. And so one of the things that I offer my authors or anyone who is writing their books with me with Carmel Publishing, where we spend time really honing in on their story, on the subject, getting it right before we hand it over to the editor. So Shona Robin and I have still stayed connected through Facebook, but we did a course together, Pain into Purpose. She came onto a summit that I spoke on this year, and I invited her to come onto my podcast show. So here she is sharing her story in Courageous Voices Unlocked, and then the journey will continue. I have the privilege that Shona Robin and I are writing her book as well with her, with Carmel Publishing. So this is something that God opened the door to. It wasn't something that I was asking for. It was just something that Stephanie and I have naturally grown into. And of course, being a coach, you know, I want to see everybody's story shine. And, you know, seeing women rewrite their inner story and seeing them being able to live it out, to write it, to speak about it is so empowering to us as women, like what Nick was saying. So welcome, Shona, to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a great introduction. I'm loving the restoration of our connection since Pain to Purpose. And Pain to Purpose was a bit of a pivotal moment, a real pivotal moment of, you know, seeing my birth mum. So I'm an adult adoptee. My story revolves around that. My story revolves around identity issues, because I didn't meet my birth mum till I was 40, and I had no connection with my birth biological father's side of the family until I was 70, when I dared to use Ancestry.com. And not only found out and connected with cousins, obviously the family were direct family, my dad and grandparents were deceased. I'm 76 and I'm having so much fun doing this. Let me tell you, I'm 76 on the 18th of October. So this is excitement. And when I connected with my father's side, the Ancestry.com, and connecting with them, there was the Maori side, none of which I knew. And I'm really proud of all those connections. I'm proud. I've met with Maori family. And I've been welcomed. Oh my goodness, have I been welcomed? And then the family members that are into genealogy, and they've traced it all back, and they've got all the stories. And you know, Ellen's my lovely first cousin. Her mother was my father's younger sister. Ellen has had something like 7 or 8 adoptees pop up in different parts of her family tree through Ancestry.com. And I was the first one. And she and her husband and their daughter, they throw down the welcome mat and then provide the stories and the connections and all that meeting. So it's a bit tumultuous at this age, and emotions in the adoption community are confusing. I liken when I learn about the primary emotions and the secondary emotions, and because I was there's abuse in the adoptive family. It wasn't meant to be, but and I've been very numbed out. And when meeting biological mother or connecting with family, it's very called reunion trauma, and it's called reunion trauma for a reason. And I've learned to liken the emotional experience of living with all those emotions like in a blender, because they all happen at once. When you go from numbness to extreme joy, but also bottomless grief because of the pain of separation and loss. And it's very confusing. And then the book, Courageous Voices Unlocked, gave me an opportunity to look at the fact that I actually live well with my confusion of emotions, that I do experience joy. And that foundation was God putting me in New Zealand's glorious Southern Alps as a child. And it was just those few years, and the air is so fresh, guys, snow-covered mountains. And there was a freedom to be myself, climbing up the mountain in front of the homestead and exploring that and experiencing the bliss of the wind in your face and the outdoors. So my life has been spent out there, and no inner feelings, but constantly adventuring, constantly chasing the wind, constantly outdoors. And that part of it's been glorious. But I did have to come back and settle down and sit still. And the book been a gift. And I have friends that are saying, what do you mean you have to contain your life in 4,000 words? There's no way you can contain your story in 4,000 words. But we did. We picked on the areas, my beloved birth mother, and what this Southern Alps gave me in the way of life and living and joy. And only the hand of God could bring that. Yeah, that's where we went.
And what's
Thank
really
you.
lovely about that is that, Shona Robbins done a couple of podcast shows with me, and we're talking about her journey. And then now she's becoming, first time published author, and we're going towards bestseller. So she gets that title as well. And this chapter is really just setting up her book. But I really asked her to hone in on her story and, really share about how her own experiences. So I have just seen her grow so much and just really, work so hard at finishing her sentences and learning to focus on herself and know that she is uniquely created and that she does have a story to share. And look, Shona, like all of us, we want to talk about everybody else's stories. And in her book, she'll talk more about her family and their stories as well. But this has been like the start of the connection towards her own book. And I know for me, this year I've had my dear two aunties pass away within a month of each other. My mum's sister, who was like my grandmother because they lost their mum and a baby when they were little, and then my other mother. And I'm writing my own book through my eyes. And when she passed away, I sat for days just writing things about my heritage and writing in that book. And I know friends who say to me, but what about your book? Well, folks, it's coming, but God has given me this greater picture, and he's connected me with these amazing women from Australia, from around the world. In our last book, we had women from Czechoslovakia, Germany, Philippines. And so I just feel incredibly blessed to be on this journey with all of these beautiful women. So, Doris, I would like to now invite our beautiful Doris to come on and share a little bit about her story in the book and how God has really connected our hearts together. Folks, the enemy just comes and wants to cause turmoil in every relationship, and Doris can witness to that we have worked extremely hard on our relationship, haven't we, hun? And we are very similar. Doris has all her fur babies. I have my fur baby. We've got a lot of things in our lives that are be similar, but then Doris has her story as well. So welcome, Doris, to my show today. You need to take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Carmel. Carmel and I both experienced some bullying when we were little girls. And so that's something else we have in common. Also, we were at Kingdom Builders Academy together. I'm still at KBA. And I know that Deanne is still there. And so we have that incredible background that's so rich and so glorious. And I think for all of us, it's just been a pivotal launching pad for our coaching and for our speaking and for our writing and so much more. But it's just rich and wonderful. So I'm grateful for that. I just want to say too that this experience of being in the Artist Haven with some of you last time, Deanne and Carmel and Stephanie, was just so wonderful. Oh my goodness. It was just, we're so proud of that book. It was just a beautiful work of art. And now for Courageous Voices Unlocked, so tickled about this one. But I will say, normally when I write creatively, whether it's in a collaborative book project or just for Facebook or something else, it just kind of flows. It flows easily for me. And I typically wake up from a dream and I know what I'm supposed to write about. And it just, boom, it just happens. Within like a week, it's done. I am telling you, ladies, I asked the Lord, what do you want me to showcase or write about in this book of overcoming? And he told me, and I went, oh no, I really don't want to do that. I don't really want to do that. Not yet. We'll do that down the road. But he wouldn't let me shake it. So I ran it by Carmel and she said, I think it's good. I think you should do it. So I actually talked about bullying. And really what bullying is, it's injustice and oppression, and it's rejection. It really is. It's a very painful thing. It does elicit a lot of fear, a lot of fear. And for me, because I allowed it to go on as a grown woman, I allowed it. And I continue to be so polite and gracious and kind because my mother had said all my life, Doris, just kill him with kindness. Just walk in the love of Jesus. Just keep nurturing the gifts of the Holy Spirit and the fruit of the Spirit. Cultivate the fruit of the Spirit in your life. Kindness, gentleness, right? Self-control, long-suffering, patience. So I did all those things. I really did for 8 years at this job. And it was just really a very difficult situation because I never went and told HR. I never reported it, but still I grew so much from it. I actually learned to develop backbone. I did, which was huge. And also at the very end of those 8 years, a spirit of fear was broken off of me. I think a spirit of fear had attached itself to me when I was a little girl, when I was bullied in 5th and 6th grade by this certain girl. And I was so afraid. And I think that's when the spirit of fear attached to me. And after that, I wanted to please all my teachers. I wanted to please everybody. I became a people pleaser. And I still love to please people, but I also can speak when it becomes necessary. I can stand up for myself. It's always been easy to stand up for other people, but I can now stand up for Doris and can say, that really makes me uncomfortable how you said that or how you did that or whatever. And that's healthy and that's okay. But one of the things I did learn after that 8 years was over, it was a year or two later, the Holy Spirit just revealed to me that when most people would have run from that situation, I didn't run. See, I had seen that as a sign of weakness, but the Lord helped me reframe that to see that it actually took staying power, it took strength, and it took courage to continue to stay. Y'all, I'm telling you, that was a revelation. I'm giving some of my chapter away, but that was a revelation to me because I had felt shame. It had affected my self-worth and my self-esteem. So that day, it was so liberating to realize that it had taken courage and strength. So that was very freeing for me. It was a beautiful experience on a mountaintop, Shauna Robin. You'll appreciate that because I lived in the mountains of Colorado for 15 years up until recently when I moved home to the deep South. And by the way, Nick, you said you're moving into springtime. Girl, we're moving into autumn, but it's still a long, hot summer in the deep South of America. So anyway, I'm so grateful to be a part of Courageous Voices Unlocked and to be with each of you. I feel very honored and very blessed, Carmel, and to be able to work with you and Stephanie again and Deanne. And also, Teresa, I was with you and Carmel and Deanne and Dear Superwoman. So we've had a few fun adventures together. I'm grateful.
Yep. And folks, if you haven't heard it, you need to go back. This year, Doris and I, we did a podcast show together and we talked about forgiveness, and we both talked about our stories of being bullying. And I share a little bit about that. I wasn't going to put it in my chapter, but after that podcast show, I put it in my chapter, and Doris did as well. And, when I sit here thinking about where I shared that there were some things that Doris and I had to overcome, I think, with the Artist Haven, Doris had really found her voice and she was learning to express, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't feel okay about that. And then we had to work through things. And, my biggest thing is that, I want to know that all of my authors are good, and that I know Deanne, Therese, a lot of us have been bullied in our lives. So Courageous Voices Unlocked is something where we are sharing such a heartfelt story of truth, but knowing that God is with us, and that not just as God is with us, he's now given me this whole community of all these beautiful women who are on this journey with me, with my books, with Carmel's Garden, with the Thriving Woman podcast show. And I just feel so honored that, they're all joining me. So folks, just as we're finishing up, I just want to thank each one of you for coming on. Stephanie has sent her apologies. She's not able to make this one, but let me tell you folks, Stephanie and I will be coming on as the book is coming out in a couple of weeks, and we're going to have a launch party as well. And I just want to thank you all for coming on and giving of your time, your money, your efforts to be part of this book. I just feel so privileged to be the visionary, the leader of this book, and how God has just uniquely brought it together. It's way beyond what I could ever have dreamed of. So thank you each one for coming on today, and for all of you listening and watching. I'm going to say I will see you in another episode of The Thriving Woman. God bless for now.